Hello everyone, my name is Shambhavi. Hope you all are doing well. So now after studying these different types for the estimation, now I'll be taking you towards the next topic, to the further topic onto this particular only. Right, so I'm going to take out a different color here so that it separates between the previous and the new lectures. So here we go. So now I have some denotions here as well. So what we had studied, once again let me take the cursor right here. So what we have studied here, that it was variance between the samples, right? So variance between the samples and one was variance within the samples. So whenever we just wrote this out, we write out in the form SS, and here in the denominator we write out here as between. So here it is SS and denominator is the between, right? So into that we have the sum of squares, the sum of squares that represents the sum of the squares that represents PRESCNTS, right? So SS between is basically the sum of the squares that represents the variation So here goes the variation among the different samples. So this is about this particular SS between, that the sum of the squares that represents the variation among the different samples, right? Now this was between, and next we were having one more, that was SS within, right? That we had studied as well. So now what was that? So let's go ahead with that particular thing once here. So that was the sum of, so it was the sum of squares that represent and that represents the variation. So here we have the variation. So SS within is basically the sum of squares that represents the variation within the samples within the samples. Let me just cut down out here and let me get out some space. Within the, right here we have. So that, okay, the sum of squares that represents the variation within the, we have here the samples, SM, yeah, right, it's okay. Samples, that is due within the samples, that is due to chance. So here goes the chance. Great. So S is within. So this is basically the sum of squares that represents the variation within the samples, and that so is basically due to chance, right? Now, what do we basically, to find out the sum of a square, what do we meant from this particular word that I was saying, that starting the sum of the squares? This one which I had used out in here as well, this particular one, right? So what does this actually means out? So this actually means that to add together squared quantities. Now, which basically in some cases may be weighted, right? In some of the cases it may be weighted. So to add together both, so add on those squared quantities together, right? This is what this particular term is. Okay, now basically why we just use out the sum of squares. So we use out the sum of squares to calculate out the sample variance, and basically for calculating out the standard deviation. Now where it is used completely, it is used in the descriptive statistics. So in the descriptive statistics, the sum of squares is used to calculate out the sample variance and to calculate out the sample standard deviation, right? So hope I am very much clear with both of these things to you, that basically what are these means and what are the things that we have out here. Now, next we are having some more things to go ahead here. So I would just start writing those things. I would just not dictate that out. So right here we go. So now we have one another term, that is MS, capital M, that capital S. Now what does that actually means? So MS means the mean square. So it's the mean, and here it is the square. Okay, so MS means the mean square. Now what is that MS between? So I would just write out that thing as well. So MS between, one second. So here it goes the between in the denominator, right? So MS between is the variance MS between is the variance. So here goes the variance between, MS between is the variance between groups, and MS within, and MS here goes the within. So MS between is the variance between groups, and MS within is the variance is the variance between the, sorry, not between, it's the variance within the, because between is almost finished up, right, because we discussed it above. So here goes, and is MS within is the variance within the groups, right? So that was the about the MS mean, that was the mean square, right? So MS between is the variance which is between the groups, and when I talk about MS within, so MS within is the variance that is within the group. So both are different things, right? So when I talk about that some variance is between the groups, so that is another one. And when I talk about that some variance is within the groups, so that's again a different thing, right? So this is about the MS means, that is the mean square. Let me take you to above a little bit once. Right here, 1 second. Great. So SS basically was the denotation that we used, right? We used SS between, that was the sum of the squares that represented out the variation among the different samples, right? We just did out this particular thing that was one of the sum of the squares. So SS basically means the sum of the squares, okay? Now what do this SS between represent? So it represents out the variation among the different samples. When I talk about, except this between, when I talk about the within, so what about the within? So SS within is basically the sum of squares that represents out the variation within the samples that is due to chance. So in SS within, the sum of squares which appear out that represent out the variation within the samples, and that is due to chance. What is the meaning of MS right here? So MS means the mean square. Okay, what is the meaning of MS? MS means the mean square. So MS between is the variance between groups, and MS within is the variance within the groups, right? Yeah. So hope I am very much clear with the like definition and with the part for this both of these, that what are these SS and what are these MS, how to categorize under, how to categorize them between within and the between of both of these functions. What are these completely meant? What is the meaning of sum of squares? What is the mean of squares? And I hope all of these things are very much clear to you. Now what are we left with? Now we'll be doing out and studying out that how we do the calculation for the sum of squares and the mean square. That we will be going ahead in the next video. Right, so hope you got out all the things very clear in a very clear way regarding whatever I just told you right here. So we'll see you in the next video. So this is all for this video. Till then, thank you and take care.